Welcome to Life of Worship. We're so glad that you've joined us today. And I'm going to be bringing forth a message of encouragement. So we are going to look at some Hebrew. We're going to look at some Greek. But more than anything, I want you to be encouraged today because sometimes we need to hear words like that, words that encourage us. Sometimes even in that encouragement, there might be a little stepping on our toes, but isn't that okay in the body of Messiah? Because how else do we grow unless we can actually recognize those things within us that we need to work on? That I have an issue with with forgetting what is behind. Not that I hold it against me, but I'm always, what did I say? How did I say it? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Maybe woulda, shoulda, coulda. And I have issues with that because I beat myself up on maybe I should have said something or done something differently, even though what I did or said was fine. But I am that way, especially to the family, my congregational family, because I want everybody happy. But here's the thing, not everybody's always going to be happy. But we can agree or choose to disagree on some things, but we're still a family because I don't know about you, but my family and I don't agree on everything. My physical family, my husband and I don't even agree on everything. But you want to know something? He still loves me and I still love him.
If somebody walks away or something, it just hits me, and I'm like, what should I done? What should I? But as I asked before, have any of you ever replayed past events or mistakes, and you can't seem to move away from that moment in time? And if your mind accidentally goes there, it's even painful because you think about it over and over again. You're like, Father, I don't want to be thinking about this, but you still go there. Well, our base text for today is Philippians 3:13. I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and reaching forward to what lies ahead, I press on. So my question is, since many of us, if not all of us, seem to deal with that issue, having a hard time forgetting what's behind, do we live in the past or the present?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, it's probably the answer is both. And so you may think, well, Shaul must have had it all together because he obviously forgot everything that was behind and was able to move forward. I doubt that. I doubt that completely because, he was still dealing with things himself. He had amazing discipline and he was this guy that people did look up to, but bottom line is we are here and we live now and we're typically consumed with our past. What about the past? Well, maybe that injury that continues to nag over and over. And so that pain happens in your body. And you're like, oh, this should have or would have. Or maybe it's something else, like somebody insulted you. You know that, what is that? Complimented insult that comes at the same time. That backhanded. Or maybe somebody has betrayed you. Betrayal hurts, especially from a friend.
Yes.
From somebody you love and care about. That betrayal, sometimes it aches and it hurts. And it seems to just be there. You've been in the act of forgiving, but it still hurts because we need to leave it at the throne. And we need to work on that until it doesn't hurt. But that's not where the message is going today. Maybe those choices that we made are the things that are actually plaguing us. Maybe those choices pushed us off the path. Or maybe it's just the people or the places or things that we just can't let go of. Sometimes it's hard because we have this tendency to hang on to things. If y'all remove something from our life, I have this habit of saying, not understanding that maybe y'all removed something from my life and I keep trying to get it back.
Yeah.
That person or a situation, and in all actuality, y'all removed that person, place, or thing. And sometimes when we don't remove those things from our life, it's removed the hard way, and it's a lot harder situation to deal with. You might have done away with your past, but it is said sometimes that your past hasn't done away with you. It does. In fact, when we ask forgiveness of sin and things, we say, okay, that's my past. But until we brought it to the throne, if we need deliverance, until we've been delivered of that thing keeps rising up and rising up because we haven't changed our habits. We haven't changed our mindset. We haven't proactively worked to step out of that thing. And sometimes that's, not sometimes, all the time, that means we need to think before we act. We need to think before we speak, et cetera, et cetera. But again, this is something we share as people. We share this thing, forgetting what is behind. Now we have Irvin D. Yalom said this. What can you do now in your life so that 1 year or 5 years from now, you won't look back and have a similar dismay about the new regrets you've accumulated? In other words, can you find a way to live without continuing to accumulate regrets? Think about that for a minute. Sometimes we're so caught up on the past ones that we repeat, or more keeps happening. So what ends up? A year, 5 years from now, we have this list of regrets. We're not supposed to live like that. We're not supposed to live out of regret. We're supposed to live on purpose so that we can shine like a light, so that we can be who y'all called us to be. Does that mean perfection? Absolutely not. We need to strive for that, but we're not going to reach it. But we can be a people that walks in forgiveness. We can be a people that walks delivered. We can be a people that walks set free. But sometimes we choose not to do that by the mere act of continuing to ruminate over those things of our past that we can't change. When I was thinking about this song, this message, this song from Evie from 1970 something, that I had records from Evie. I've told you that before. But that it was give it all, give it all, give it all to Jesus, shattered dreams, wounded hearts, broken toys. And that, still all these years later, that still immediately rang in my head. That's something we need to do. And it's easily said. You've heard messages preached about it. Yeah. But sometimes it's hard to do it. In fact, we try. But the thing is, we need to keep doing and doing and doing until it's accomplished. And maybe that's what Shaul had in mind. Because did he forget Damascus Road? No, he talks about it in scripture. Maybe what he's really saying is that we don't forget everything that's ever happened to us in the past. No, but we forget the failures, the disappointments, and the suffering, because there's something greater that he's called us to achieve in this life. There are greater purposes he's calling us to fulfill. And one day and one time, those mistakes, those relationships, and those things, we will be able to speak of them as a starting point to help someone else. And when we've reached that, we know we've come to full healing. We know that now it's a tool and those things can be used for him. But until that time, we got to let it go. We got to let it go and live so that we can move forward, because otherwise we are paralyzed because we're stuck in the past. We're stuck in what we said. We're stuck, like I said, ruminating these things in our mind instead of what the word says we're supposed to think about. Are we continually a people that are haunted from our mistakes or the mistakes of somebody else? Isn't that hard when it's somebody else that made the mistake and yet you're the one that had suffered from it? That's really hard. It's one thing to do your own mistakes, but when someone else has done the action, when someone else has done something and it's hurt you, your family, your reputation, everything about you, that is really hard to take in.
I think sometimes we have to separate ourselves. Forgive, but separate.
So let me ask you this question. When we're walking in that way, are we effective in the kingdom?
If you really do.
Are we effective priests and kings? I would say not. Or at least not to the point that Yah wants us to be, to do what he's called us to accomplish. Because we're still holding on to things. It's like that baggage skit that Killian and Jonathan did one time. We keep carrying and putting more rocks in the bags and carrying all that baggage with us because we are not taking our thoughts captive. And yeah, that's something we've got to do. We've got to choose to do it. So repetition, we've got to get out of that repetition in our own lives, because regret, think about this. Regret is like worms for the soul. Yuck. Because what happens is they get buried deep under the surface and only come out at certain times. I think about, this is really gross, but parasites. A lot of the parasite cleanses and things that are on the market will get some of the parasites out, but parasites multiply and come out during evening hours, especially during the middle of during the full moon and things. But at night, 12, when you say, Diana, 12 to, because you're really smart on all this. Nope. Okay. 12 to 3 or so, that's when they come out of those places where they burrow into your intestine. And that's when to kill them. Yeah, that's the best time to kill them is right then. Because they're like words. I know you're all going, but this is an issue that also we all deal with, right? And I mean, it's a hot topic on among groups now and internet and things like that because we're wanting to get our lives cleaned up. But those are like worms for the soul. And what time? I said they only come out at certain times. Our regrets. Well, it's just like that because regrets have this tendency to come out when we're in pain or when there's tears flowing and when there's hurt. And then all of a sudden those regrets come forward. If I only woulda, shoulda. I remember you've heard me say this before, and it's a regret. I mean, it's in the past, of course. But for me, I've always said if I had one thing to do over, I don't know. I think I would steer my husband off becoming pastors of our own ministry. And then I had to stop myself because of the events that later happened. But I was talking to somebody recently. I said, well, that doesn't work because this and this and this is very important. So we needed to walk down this road. But the bottom line is, I wish Jonathan never had to go through what Jonathan had to go through. And so I was like, well, what could happen? Because I want my babies and my grandbabies and I want my family and I want all of this. So, but what good is that to look behind and say, I wish? And it happened to be, I was talking to somebody and they asked what would be the biggest thing that you would change. And so I started down that path. I was like, wait, I said it. And I was like, wait, but that wouldn't work because of X, Y, Z. So we can't do that. We can't live in the past because, in the tears, it bottles up our tears. But think of it. Those regrets come up because they ended up scattered all over the pavement of your life and they wriggle around so they can breathe and try to trip you up where Yah's trying to get you to go. And where it is, it's the enemy. Because remember, most of our thoughts are either from Yah or from the enemy itself. So what happens? That pain, the rain, the tears often bring those regrets out. Is there a way to stop those teardrops from falling? Well, I think we would still face regrets one way or the other. It's still going to happen. Perhaps what matters isn't removing regrets, but maybe we need to aim at having fewer of them, or being able to take a step back and look at it and say, Father, your word says that you work all things together for good for those that love you. Your word says that you're going to turn it around for your glory. So, Father, this mess that I made, I give it to you. Forgive me from where I have faltered, or maybe it's done to me. Help me to forgive and take this. Take it so I don't have to think about it anymore. Paul writes of this behind forgetting or behind neglecting. That sort of boils down to what he's saying. And it's epilanthamo, which means forgetting. Say that 10 times fast, right? No. Say the Greek. Epialathano ahi. Yeah. No, can't do it. Anyway, this verb is actually a passive participle, which means it's an action done to the subject. Okay, what does that mean? It's not by the subject, but that seems strange because no one is making Paul forget. He has to do that himself. But it also suggests a deliberate act. And I would say that's very much true because if we just ask Yah to take those thoughts away, is that probably going to happen? Or do we have to be the active participant in our own life? Yes, we do. We do. So when we have a regret, when Shaul had this regret, it was a matter of the will. It's a matter of our will. We can't dwell. We have to neglect that call. When the enemy comes a call and trying to plant it in our head, we have to reject it completely. And his word says to, we have to forget our past guilt. We have to forget our past shame. Now, if you look in the natural, forgetting, what does it mean? No longer caring for, neglecting, or refusing to focus. And in all actuality, that's really where we're at. We need to refuse to focus on it, right? But some experiences we've had are impossible to forget. And Have you ever tried to forget something and you're thinking about forgetting it, so it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger? I don't want to be. It's like that song. You hear the song, you're like, I don't want to think of that song or whatever it might be, and it just keeps playing and playing and playing. Well, sometimes that happens, and Paul is not saying we need to have a complete memory like. Please understand that. It's not the way it is at all. He's telling us that we need to live here and live now.
Yeah, today.
Focus on now. Focus on what God's trying to do in us and through us. Focus on the future, not our past. Am I saying to forget the past? No, we'll talk about that more. Completely, anyway. The act of forgetting has to be done by you. It has to be done by me. We have to choose and be an active participant in it so that we can be free from the tormentor himself. Because the enemy knows that thing will keep you off the path or keep you from accomplishing all you're supposed to. So don't you think he knows that's a chink in your armor? Don't you know he's going to take advantage of that? Absolutely. So what does that mean? That word forgetting, we're the actor and we're acted upon. We're the one that chooses to forget, and we have to forget. Now, Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on those things. This is why I always tell you, fill your house with praise, fill your house with worship. It literally shifts the atmosphere. And some of those things hit you.
Yeah.
But your perspective is different when you're living out that life of worship. Now, remember, Paul was considered what? Shaul was considered a Hebrew of Hebrews, right? When he was speaking, he was drawing from the Torah. He was drawing from the things that he was taught. He was in that culture. Moral integrity and community harmony were really important. Hebrew tradition actually involves meditating on what? Yah's instructions, his law, his Torah, his attributes, and dwell on things that are praiseworthy. So he's really speaking out not only out of what maybe he's experienced, but he's speaking out of the word, because it's about shalom. And what is shalom? Shalom is that peace, yes, but it's nothing missing, nothing broken, fullness, wholeness, and completeness in him. Focus on those qualities, and it brings encouragement. Focus on praising him for the 3 tires that are not flat, instead of cursing at the one that is. What is praiseworthy in our lives? Do we have shelter? Do we have air to breathe? Do we have health? Do we have clothes on our back? Do we have a congregational family? Do we have family? Are we able to get up? There are so many things that he has given us beyond what we even acknowledge. But those are things that are praiseworthy. It's a privilege to have a date with our King. That's praiseworthy. It's an honor to be able to gather with you. That's here today. And every Shabbat and High Sabbath. It's an honor. And beyond that, it's an honor. Hallelujah. It's praiseworthy. Whatever things are lovely, look at the beauty around us. It's praiseworthy. When we are focusing on things like that, are we going to have room in our minds to say, I wish I would have. I wish I could have, if only. There won't be room for that. There will be none. Now, you've got to remember, we've talked, there's always 2. There's your flesh. There's your spirit. There's 2 of you. And who is going to be on top? Who is the one that's going to win out on this battle? Is it your spirit or is it your flesh? Because one can be forgotten and the other will press on. Will your spirit press on, or will you let your spirit be suppressed and your flesh press on? So it just tells us one more time, we need to release the negative thoughts and emotions and have this renewed hope. Now, with all of that said, I'm going to go back. You said, well, my life, Paul wasn't dealing with what I deal with. I want to tell you a little bit when Paul wrote this, what he was dealing with. Because he was writing to the church of Philippi from prison. Yeah. And he's reflecting on his past life, maybe as a Pharisee, as a persecutor of those who believed. And he's thinking back. He's like, I can't think on that. I got to press towards the goal. And think about it. let's say he's in this prison, because he is. You think they had the electricity to just pop on the light? So you have this dimly lit prison, probably smells, it's probably dank, musty, damp stone walls, maybe. Maybe there's a light that's flickering, a candle light that's flickering somewhere, or a small lamp. And then, oh, probably noise. If there's very many people there, there's probably voices and noise and probably even cursing and saying bad things. This is the environment he's in. And maybe the chains are rattling. You hear that and distant echoes of other prisoners that are around. And in walks his companions, Timothy and Epaphroditus. And what are they doing? They begin to engage in this conversation. Maybe they're saying, man, I hate that you're here. And he's like, come on, let's forget what that is. Let's forget it. There's more that's got to be done here. And if we're focusing on that, it paralyzes us from moving forward. Forget all that. Forget it. So they're in this deep discussion, possibly about faith, about perseverance, about all the challenges that they face now, or that at that time, trying to spread the word of our Messiah, of Yeshua HaMashiach, to others. No matter what their circumstances were, there was still that shalom. There was a sense of praise amongst them.
Yep.
That there was unwavering hope that they were not going to be moved. So when we try to compare ourselves to the situation that they're in, we're going to fail miserably. It's not going to work. In fact, when we look at our circumstances, we've got to realize there's always someone in a worse circumstance than we are. Now, I want you to also consider what precedes this passage immediately. Well, he goes in there and he says, I consider everything lost because of the surpassing worth of knowing Yeshua Messiah, my Elohim, Hayah. See, your qualifications in Jewish culture were extremely important. So he's saying that none of this matters. He's saying none of it matters in comparison, because he just did a list of his qualifications. And if anybody's qualified for anything, it's Paul. So Paul's making this point that all of it is pointless. It doesn't matter, regardless of how good or how bad we were or have been. Doesn't matter, because we need to be reaching forward to what Yah wants us to do and what he wants to be. I don't care what the financial setback is, the loss of a loved one, a broken relationship, mistakes that we've made, being falsely accused, all of those things. We'll walk that out, and we trust our advocate. Who is our advocate? It's Yeshua, our Messiah. We trust our advocate to step in and defend us and take care of us as we put our focus on him. It says, trust in me. We trust in him to do what he needs to do. And what we do is we go fight. But what does our fight entail? Remember, he's our shield and our buckler. And that means when you look at the message that stands, we stand and keep on praying. And what does he do? He deflects the arrows and the things that come our way. They're not going to stick. He'll use it. He'll use it for his glory. But we've got to trust him, and we've got to forget. Now, forgetting, is it hard? Yes, it is. I'm going to give you this testimony of this guy. He's a young soldier named Nicholas Herman, and he decided to give his life to Yeshua. And he joined a monastery. So, he joined a monastery, and he took on the name, instead of Nicholas Herman, he was now Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection. Okay. And so he has all this because, man, that taking on a name like this, would you want to accomplish some things? I would think Brother Lawrence of the Resurrection. And he spent the rest of his life working in a kitchen and repairing his brother's sandals. That's what he did. That's what he did. But during all those decades, doing menial jobs, he discovered something profound. He discovered the truth about having a relationship with the King, with Yah himself. Because experiencing Yah's presence shouldn't depend on what's happening everywhere around us. It doesn't matter what's yesterday, although we can be kept from his presence because we're focused on yesterday. Brother Lawrence practiced the continual presence of Yah because he immediately dealt with things that were wrong in his life, things he'd done in his life. Confess immediately, get it out of the way, let your action and your attitude be transformed, and pray, have a conversation with Yah as you're giving it to him. Because what happens after you confess? What happens after you say, man, I just can't do this alone. I messed up here, I messed up there. There's a release, and that's what he experienced. And that's the same thing that we need to do to experience that release is we've got to let go. We can't have sin management where we're trying to manage the sin and this thing that keeps plaguing in our lives that we refuse to truly get rid of, because that's why it keeps happening over and over again. Sin management doesn't work. It will never work. Now, here's the next thing. We're trying to forget, but no man is an island. What do people have this tendency to do to us? Well, you did this, or remember when, or I saw, or you. So if the enemy's not accusing us of our brethren, and sometimes the worst people are in our congregation with us, not saying here at Life of Worship, folks, that's not the way it is. But honestly, other believers, how many of you have been accused by another believer? How much does that hurt? Yeah, it does. A Life of Worship accused and by other congregations.
Yeah.
That's hurtful. But we're not an island into and of ourselves. But can we hold that and let it paralyze us from doing what we need to do? We can't do it. We've got to move forward. Now, we're not going to get rid of the other person, but we can ask God to. When there's people that need to be removed from my life or the lives of those I love, I always say, Father, pray that they're severed from your life.
Yeah.
And I pray that prayer too. Father, I don't want people and things in my life that shouldn't be there.
Right.
And I don't want those things in me that shouldn't be there. Distractions, mess up, deliverance. I need your delivering hand in my life. And, can we win?
He will deliver.
We win through him.
Yeah.
We win through him. And in the meantime, we've got to remember there's a goal. But how do we reach that goal? In part, confession, repentance, surrender, leave the past, your old self behind, be that new creation. The only person in the world who is not a victim of their own past decisions or others that's ever walked the face of the earth is our Messiah, Yeshua. And yet he was too. Think of the things that he suffered by the hand of others. But does he sit there and have regrets? No, he's like, this is happening so that I can accomplish the will of God. This is what is supposed to happen because there's a future ahead. And there's bigger things. This doesn't matter. I am what my life will become, not what it has been. Let's say that. I am what my life will become, not what it has been. So we need to let go of the dead stuff.
Yeah.
This last week, or last Sunday, the first day of the week, was it this week? No, it was a couple weeks ago. We got a hold of our peach tree. It's supposed to have been pruned in January. And it looked beautiful, that it's so straight, big, it had grown so much. But I know for the best peach production and to have those delicious peaches again, I had to chop that thing up.
No.
Of course, I used John to do it. I got the little branches, got on the ladder and said, get that one.
To ease the guilt.
To ease the guilt. What we did is we cut some things that would stay on the bottom and be to here. We whacked that tree.
Good for you.
But we needed to.
Yes.
Because in that pruning, it will produce better fruit.
Bigger.
In that pruning, light will be able to come forth and hit all the branches. A peach tree has to look like an upside down umbrella. All the middle has to be cut out. And all the length, it just has to be pruned so the light will come in and bring forth the fruit.
And the air.
And the airflow so it can breathe. That's what has to happen to our peach tree and other trees for that matter. So those branches had to be cut. Those things in your life that keep holding you back, cause you to limp, have to be cut out so that light can come in, so that you can breathe, so that you can go forward. But you have to choose to eliminate it. And it's hard because sometimes those things have become, dare I say, idols in our own lives, or comfortable, or reassuring to us. But Yah says, I don't want your comfort and your reassurance to come from that thing or this thing or that person. It needs to come from me and me alone. For I am your strength. I am your comfort. You can do all things. How? Through Yeshua, our Messiah, not out of our own will, our own accomplishments, or changing our past. He uses our past so that he can create this beautiful tapestry in our life. But the dead branches have to be removed. the dead weight in our lives, the bad relationships, the old wounds, the holding on to the hurt for losing someone, all of it has to be removed. We can't hold on to it because we're never going to enjoy the life he's given to the fullest if we hang on to the dead weight. We're too afraid sometimes to give up what we know, especially as women, because it's comfortable. We like to have our routine. We like to have that security. But Yah says, I'm not here to make sure you feel secure. I'm here to see that you trust in me alone, not what's going on in your life, not full of regrets, listening to the thoughts the enemy plants in your head. Because the deeper roots you have in me, the more you trust me, the more you look on my word, the more you meditate on me, then the more fruit you will produce. And you will accomplish the things that I've called you to, because then the light has come in. Then you are breathing, and that fruit is out there so that you can be the light to the world and fulfill the purposes for which I called you. Let it go. Let it go. You know, he teaches and trains us to be kind and gentle and peaceful and patient and loving and forgiving like him. But we can't do it unless we are connected to him. And we know that. That is nothing new. But we need to be reminded that sometimes we're not moving forward in our own life because we've got things that are holding us down, things that we've chosen not to let go of. We need to spend time with him. We need to be yoked with him because our relationship with Yah is more than just knowing the Torah portion and going to a Torah study and reading the word. It's more than that. It's about a personal relationship with him. We've got to stay connected. How? Of course, through study, through prayer, through abiding in him. But Yahweh wants us to be so rooted and grounded in his love that nothing can shake us. No storm can come that's going to knock us down because we're so rooted. We're not living in our regrets, because living in those regrets is going to cause something to rot within us. So we let go of the past.
Like a ball and chain.
We let it go. Past hurts, past insecurities, anything you look for a sense of security over, or look for a sense of security in other than Yahweh, he's probably going to remove it. Maybe it's best that we remove it first.
That's right.
What do you think? Now, reaching forward. Paul talks about reaching forward. And the Greek adds emphasis, epieketino, number 1901. It means to really stretch out towards something, to extend. I want you to think of a runner on track, or maybe a football player. Football. Maybe let's do football since that season just passed. But what happens? They catch the ball and they're getting to that finish line. What are they going to do with that ball? They're going to stretch forward as far as they can. A runner sees the tape and there's somebody behind him. What are they going to do when they see that goal, that finish line ahead? They're going to stretch forward so they can reach that goal and get there when they're supposed to get there. So think about that. Is that runner or that football player focusing, oh man, I missed that play back 2 plays ago. If I only would have, should have, could have, I dropped the ball? Or is he going to be thinking only on the task right then, right there? Yeah, if he's going to come victory, if he's going to make that touchdown, if that runner's going to cross the line, all those other thoughts will simply cause them to fail in what they're supposed to be doing. So we have to deliberately make the choice to leave those things behind us, so that we can put our concentration on what's ahead. And what is our goal? We've got to remember that the goal is Yeshua. He is on that path. That path of right. Everything else is chaos. If we get off the path, it leads to chaos. But Yeshua is the rest. That is the goal. And it is him. That's where we're going. And that's what he wants. Go where he goes, do what he does, and say what he says. He has a purpose for us. One direction, only one effort, and only one focus. Not here and here and here and here and there and there. That's the prize of our high calling of Yahweh. It's the goal. So, is it easy to live in the past? Yeah. Does the enemy want us to live in the past? Absolutely. Because it hangs over us like this shroud, like it's covering. And we got to leave it there because it hinders our walk. We have to refuse to allow past successes to get us into pride. Because guess what else can hold us back? Things that we've accomplished can hold us back. Because we're still living there in the testimony of yesterday instead of what he wants to do with us now. And it can become pride. So sometimes the good things have to be let go of too. Now, do we forget everything? No, because we also remember his testimony, remember what he's done. The car, he tells us to remember his word. In fact, in Israel, what did they do? They said, Deuteronomy 9:7, one example. Remember this and never forget how you aroused the anger of Jehovah, your Elohim, in the wilderness. From the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious against the Lord. So sometimes he's like, don't do that again. But where do we ask forgiveness, we let it go, we receive deliverance, and we move forward.
That's right. No matter how many times you have to.
Remembering should be to the glory of God and should have a spiritual benefit for us and others when we're remembering. So we remember the testimonies of all. We remember what he's done for us, but we don't stay there because he wants to do so much more with us. So are we going to allow yesterday to continue to determine our tomorrow?
No.
Have we? I'll have to say, yeah, sometimes I do.
Yes, we have.
But it's time we've got to stop that. We've got to press forward, forgetting what is behind. And in the midst of that, we see the victory because we're no longer almost petting that thing because it's become so accustomed to us that it's familiar, and that familiarity is something that we've clung to. We've got to go into the unfamiliar, the things that may seem insecure to the world, but it's complete security because we're trusting in Yahweh himself, and he's not going to let go, and we're not going to let go of him. Do we cling to him like that?
Yes.
Do we take our thoughts captive? If we haven't, and I guarantee we can all say there are times when we do not take our thoughts captive. This needs to be a new day and a new hour where we shift the atmosphere of our hearts and shift the atmosphere of our own physical lives so that we can dwell on those things that are praiseworthy, that those things that are lovely, so we can dwell on what his word and his Torah, so that we can declare his word. If our mouth is speaking out his word, we're not going to have time to be thinking of the regrets and the what ifs and whatever should have happened yesterday or we did wrong. We're going to be able to focus on him and his word and live it out loud accordingly. So my prayer and my encouragement is today, let's shift our own lives as we press in toward him. Let's have a shift in our own purposes and our own thought patterns, and let's live differently than we have yesterday, so that yesterday no longer is the weight that ties us down and brings us to the bottom, but instead we are free because we breathe and we can let the sunlight in and his light go before us, Father. And not only that, but that we are the light to others, and it's not dimmed because of yesterday for us. Father, right now we come before you. Whatever's been holding us back, Father, we want to let go. We want to let go of it. Have your way within it. We acknowledge the weight of our past and mistakes, and you just name them. Just name it. You don't have to do it out loud. Do it in your head. Just name it. Whatever it is that's held you down, the thought patterns, the people, the events, whatever it is. Those things, we ask forgiveness. We ask that we be released and delivered from those thoughts. We forgive others who have harmed us, that where it just keeps aching and aching. Father, we want to live for today. We want to fulfill the purposes for which you called us. Father, strengthen us so that we can let go, so that we continually and daily let go of the burdens that the enemy would desire that we carry. Father, help us to embrace you and embrace your word and shift the atmosphere of our own lives as we press towards the goals that you have for us, as we fulfill the purposes for what you have for us, because we're no longer going to drag the heavy load of regret, the heavy load of our past with us. We're ready to let it go so that we can move on and experience that greater relationship with you and walk in your presence daily, be in your presence. Help us to know and experience that love and give it to others that are around us.
That's right.
We give it all to you in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Yes.